অ্যাপ হোক কিংবা বাটন ফোন, উপায়ে ক্যাশ আউট চার্জ হাজারে মাত্র 14 টাকা, সাথে সেন্ড মানি একদম ফ্রি।
As well. So probably they hadn't had that time together. They have done their analysis and looking forward to a different game today for the Afghans.
And Alan, we can't, I suppose, put apart days. Given the summer they've had, which I'm sure has been frustrating to a certain amount, playing so well in a lot of games and not getting over the line, this week has been very important to boost that confidence again.
Well, the confidence, it never seemed to be in the team. Yes, they got close, but I think the biggest thing is Ireland have been on an upward trajectory. They've provided some fantastic cricket. People are being viewed as players around the world. The likes of Harry Tector going to, obviously, South Africa in January, February. That wouldn't have been heard of maybe a year ago. It's something Afghanistan have had the luxury with a number of players going to these tournaments due to their recognition. But as Hamid said, you know, they've looked to lack that gel. Even in the warm-up I was watching there, Ireland were buzzing. Afghanistan were a little bit subdued, and this coming together, there's so much that moves into a team performance. The coach backed his captain. He backed it up himself with two fantastic performances with the bat. So all of these things kind of coming together. 2 new caps today, so it'll be really interesting to see how they go. And again, Ireland have been a team in transition. They have some good young players that are really coming through. But the big thing is that the trajectory has been upwards.
Yeah, well, you mentioned those 2 new caps. Graham Hume making his T20 international debut, obviously played an ODI against New Zealand earlier this summer. And Fionn Hand, a man making his complete international debut today, especially for Fionn, a man you'll know pretty closely as well from the last number of years. A very proud day for himself and his family, and well deserved as well.
Absolutely. It's a long time too since we've seen a mother at a capping ceremony, but of course she works for Cricket Ireland, so I think that was well induced. But I believe he's been very good around the squad. He's come into the 15, worked very hard, so now the time has come to, in a sense, for him to stick his hand up. That's what you've got to do. When you get your chance, you've got to try and take it. So again, he's coming into a winning team, so that will help him. And obviously Graham Hume has played before. He has vast professional experience overseas, and obviously he's been in Ireland some time now. He's a particular type of bowler, so it'll be very interesting to see, as an example, that Zazai, if Graham Hume is taking the new ball, will be interesting. But also for me will be the battle between Josh Little and Zazai.
Yeah, well, that will be fascinating. Looking at that Afghanistan batting, obviously Zazai has that chance of me to maybe get them off to a flyer, but we haven't seen near on anything from Gurbaz, Mohammed Nabi, even Rashid Khan with the bat, who is very destructive. You'd think at some stage that may click, though, and what will they be looking to do, especially in those middle overs?
Well, it has to click today, otherwise it would be too late and Ireland would have won the series. It's not just that they haven't played well individually. The other issue has been they haven't been able to put partnerships together. And on the other hand, if you look at Ireland, they have been brilliant at doing that individually and also as a pair out there, putting partnerships. I was watching the last game. 121 wouldn't look like as a big target. Ireland could have got that score in 14, 15 hours. They didn't. They wanted to drag it as if they wanted to face the Afghan bowlers as much as they could. It was sort of a training ground for them. So they wanted to take it to the second last and then even to the last over. So it has to click for Afghanistan, not just individually, but as partners, and they have to put some partnerships together.
I suppose a positive for Afghanistan has still been the bowling. We saw yesterday, even defending such a low score, the likes of Faruqi and Naveen ul-Haq got them off to such a good start. They're obviously very impressive and experienced bowlers at this stage, and you kind of can forget after these 2 games just how potent the Afghanistan attack is.
It is, and bowling has always been Afghanistan's strength with the likes of Nabi and Mujib and Rashid Khan, but the fearing factor, the one thing I'm surprised is that lots of fans coming into the ground, they do obviously talk about Rashid Khan as well, but a couple of other names are emerging like Fazal Faruqi and Azmatullah Omazai, who regularly bowls at 140. So there are some emerging fast bowlers, and they need to get used to these wickets because they will be playing on somewhat similar fast pitches in 2 months' time in Australia.
Yeah, definitely. Looking again at the Irish team, Alan, the way they've batted has been very pleasing to see. I know a lot's been made of Andy Balbirnie's return to form, but Lorcan Tucker at number 3 has been, I suppose, the revelation of the last 2 weeks or so. What do you think it's been with Lorcan that's been different to perhaps what we've seen from him lower down the order?
Well, I think what he's actually focused on is the strong shots. You know, he used to get out in the most tame ways. And again, there was always something about Lorcan Tucker that made a coach kind of think this, the best cream will rise to the top, and the added responsibility, he's taken it with both hands. But I think the biggest thing is his attacking capability, his running between the wickets. He's always busy, and he's just grown in confidence, and it's been a real game changer for Ireland, that position at 3, because if any of the learning exercise, and you look through this series, Afghanistan have lost wickets early, it's stalled their progress. Ireland have learned from the mistakes of the T20 series against New Zealand, where they were constantly losing wickets in the power play. You can catch up. The biggest hitting in these games is always done in the latter stages of these matches, and often there's too much emphasis, I feel, on the power play. The biggest thing is to be 1, certainly maybe 2 wickets down, and you can get to 47, 50, even anything between 40 and 50, because the big banging is at the end of these matches.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a very interesting game and a very interesting first innings, which we'll be delighted to be showing you after just a quick break. What a wonderful afternoon here in Stormont for the third T20 International between Ireland and Afghanistan as part of the ITW T20 International Series. Between the two sides, you can see on your screens there the Irish side just about to come out onto the field of play after the two standing umpires. Ireland winning the toss earlier on this afternoon and electing to field first. Two T20 International debutants for the Irish team. Graham Hume making his T20 debut and Fionn Hand making his international debut as well. So best of luck to those two players and the Afghanistan opening batters. Myself, Andrew Blair-White, and Nathan Johns will take you through the first 5 overs of this first innings. Nathan, how are you this afternoon?
Good afternoon, Andrew. Delighted to be here once again. Twice in 2 days, getting our fix of T20 international cricket here at Stormont. What a delightful day, as you mentioned earlier. Interesting to see the 2 changes from Ireland. I think they were largely expected. This squad has had quite a high workload. It's been a while since they've made any changes, and back-to-back games, no surprise to see it's the bowlers who get some of the workload shared around, as, like you said, Messrs Hand and Hume, fast bowling options come into the side.
Yeah, I think given the amount of games played and the continuity to the side, I think everyone was expecting changes at some stage throughout this series. Also an opportunity, obviously, for players to get a chance and show themselves off. And the one change for Afghanistan is going to be on your screens at the moment. Hazratullah Zazai coming into the attack, or coming into the team, should I say, and opening up here with Ramanullah Gurbaz. And because given the amount of mental damage that Zazai has inflicted on Ireland in the past, this will be a key wicket for them.
Well, we were just before we came on out, we were having a brief discussion in the back of the commentary box about Zazai and that 162 not out that he famously scored against Ireland, and how much that's inflated perhaps his average of 35 and strike rate of 147 in T20 international cricket, which is remarkable for a top order batter. But he's played 25 games, so it's not just a case of he has got that sole score. So it's an interesting one to see whether it's a small sample size. But anyway, Mark Adair to open up for Ireland.
That is the worst possible start from Mark Adair. It's a complete loosener in every sense, and well down the leg side. Lorcan Tucker could do nothing about that, and goes to the fence for 5.
Yeah, like you said, it's about as bad as it gets. Floated full delivery from Mark Adair. Looked very, like you said, much like a loosener, perhaps even a little bit stiff. Didn't have any rhythm coming into the crease there at all.
Yeah, straying down the leg side again there, Mark Adair. So you had to see a legitimate delivery. Afghanistan already moving on to 6 without loss. Change in pitch today from the pitch we've seen in the first 2 T20 internationals, so it'll be interesting to see just how it plays, how I suppose the Afghanistan openers approach this innings as well, because they could do with some momentum with the bat in hand as Zazai gets off the mark.
Well, Ireland certainly have a clear idea as to how they think Zazai will go about his innings. Square leg and deep mid wicket are the 2 outside the ring. To start, we saw in previous games, they like to have someone on the offside just to offer a little bit of extra protection for those wide deliveries, but not the case to Zazai. They clearly have seen something in their analysis, but perhaps a more regulation field to Gurbaz, as we've seen so far in this series. The deep points and a deep square.
Very full to start from Mark Adair. Quite floaty just to start off. As you mentioned, it's been a long, hard summer for some of these fast bowlers, and especially in the heat here in Stormont, can be difficult at times, but I think Adair will be ideally looking to drag that length back ever so slightly.
Yeah, it's still very full. I wonder, it's a different pitch. So obviously Alan Lewis did our pitch report for us. Perhaps a few more cracks. Maybe it might nibble around a bit more. Probably not nibble off that length. So I suspect Mark Adair is still just trying to, as you said, drag it back. Or maybe he is just on a new deck trying to experiment with a few different lengths and see what reward he gets.
That's a better length from Adair. Left throw by Ramanullah Gurbaz, who just hasn't quite got going in this series so far. Shaped with promise on Tuesday, then drove airily to short third man yesterday, which really was a bit of a freak dismissal, to be honest. You won't see that type of dismissal too often.
Yeah, well, he just nicked a wide half volley to short third, didn't he? Yard either side, he would have got his boundary.
Having bowled that first delivery, which went for 5 wide, so Adair has come back very nicely here in this first over. If he can manage to get through this final delivery without conceding a boundary, one would have to say it would be job well done. It's cut away though, and that is going to go to the boundary, so he can't get out of his over, and Gurbaz gets a boundary to start off his account. 1 over gone. Afghanistan 11 without loss. That's exactly the start they'd wanted.
Yeah, short and wide, punished, wasn't it? Adair got the treatment from Gurbaz. We spoke before about how sometimes Ireland like to have some protection out there on the offside for the width, but not that wide.
Well, not a whole pile Curtis Clanford could do out there at deep cover, apart from fetch that one from the fence. It's going to be Josh Little to open the bowling, as we've seen so often from the City end. Great to see on your screens there. The Afghan supporters out in force again. Very colourful supporters and loyal. It's been fascinating seeing them obviously enjoying and loving watching their nation play.
It's interesting to see Ireland have switched ends, haven't they, in terms of what end they opened from. We saw Josh Little bowl over number 1 in the previous 2 games in this series. I wonder if that's because we are on a different pitch today. This pitch is much closer to the clubhouse, so to the leg side boundary for the left-handed Zaza, and I wonder if that's just a case of trying to bowl towards the larger leg side boundary at the end of the game.
Good piece of fielding from Camphor in a backward point there. It was again a bit of a loosener, this time from Josh Little, short and wide. And Zaza couldn't quite find the gap. Yeah, I think it's probably something as small as that, Nathan. I think you're bang on there. I'd say the boundary dimensions have kind of switched to around 20 metres or so, around 10 metres longer out towards the scoreboard, the far side of the ground, and 10 metres shorter this side towards the pavilion.
Yeah, don't mind that from Little. He's got the field set to bowl into Zaza's pads, like we said, still with that deep mid-wicket and deep square, as Mark Adair had to the left-hander. Just have a look early doors and see if he's able to keep out the fast full one. But again, we saw Josh bowl some heavy legs into the pitch so far in this series with the new ball. So we'll see if that's what he reverts to here.
Well, I think that's not a bad option to Zaza. Try to test him out in that kind of rib cage to kind of under the armpit area, really. It's an uncomfortable length to play. He's not overly efficient against it. I think what Ireland have learned at a heavy price before with Zaza, is you just cannot bowl anywhere near that slot because it will disappear. Good running from Gurbaz. And backed up well by Zaza there as well, just defending that one into the offside, just slightly in the gap between point and cover. It's already showing probably a busyness and a hungriness for runs that we certainly didn't see yesterday. They were awfully laboured really throughout the day yesterday, Nathan.
Yeah, well, whenever they tried to release the pressure, it was either a poor shot selection or just a bit of bad luck. We spoke earlier about Gurbaz's dismissal. I mean, call it short third off a nick. It doesn't happen too often. So, but some of the other dismissals were pretty average shots. So if they can find other ways of releasing pressure, like dropping and running like that, as Little's going to have to go back and roll that one again. He's rubbing his face. I wonder if just something flew into his eye, perhaps. He seems to be okay, thankfully.
I think a little fly or something of that nature has just gone straight into his right eye, causing him to end up running through his delivery stride. Oh, the leading edge and just short of Andy Balbirnie, squaring Zazai up completely there and almost looping into the graceful hands of Balbirnie at extra cover.
I wonder if that one just left him a touch. That's what Josh Little can be so good at. Two left-handers with the new ball. It's just gets that ball to lead them a little bit and leave them late off the pitch. Wonder if that's what happened there. Zazai just closed his bat face too early.
Down the leg side on this occasion from Little. Just trying to make sure he gets through this first over. I know in both games so far in this series he's bowled a very good first over and has gone for a boundary off that last ball, much to his anger yesterday certainly. Be looking to make sure that isn't the case on this occasion. Which it isn't, just defended into the offside. Good start from Little, 14 without loss after 2.
I don't know what Zazai's doing. Before that delivery, he signalled to the Afghan bench. He wants a new bat. The new bat is coming, but it's obviously not broken because he still faced the delivery and was more than happy to use the bat for a delivery. So I'm not quite sure what's happening here. I know some players like to use different weights of bat depending on what they're trying to do. You know, the heavier bat is the power hitting bat, perhaps. I don't know what's going through Zazai's head here.
I thought the most extraordinary thing I've ever seen was when we were at the India games earlier on this summer in Malahide, and every time Hardik Pandya hit a boundary, he called for a new bat.
It wasn't working for him, clearly. Well, here's Graham Hume. He's played a few one-day internationals this summer, but here we go on T20 international debut for Ireland. Starts off with a dot ball, and Gurbaz leaves that one outside off.
A good start for Graham Hume. Probably known more so around Ireland, to be honest, as a 50-over operator. As much as he's been very good for the Northwest Warriors in all formats, I think probably his bread and butter is more in longer format cricket than T20, but he's getting his opportunity now on the international stage. Just wonder whether the likes of Zazai and Gurbaz, with Graham Hume and Fionn Hand, potentially might try to take on some of those more aggressive options. Maybe see them as the two bowlers that they can really get a hold of and maybe put the pressure back on Ireland.
There's certainly an opportunity to. And that's the length that Graham Hume bowls so well. It's a good hand from George Dockrell at backward point. Probably saved a couple of runs. Don't think that would have run away to the boundary. But you say 50 over crickets perhaps is more bread and butter. But he does bowl that heavy length, top of the stumps, or some people call it the into the box length, that is so valued and has become so valued over the last 18 months perhaps in T20 cricket. I mean, you look at the likes of Josh Hazelwood has resurrected his T20 career by being that bowler who hits that length that it's difficult to get underneath, and it's generally what Hume does, and just nibbles the ball both ways off that length. That length right there.
Yeah, it's a very good delivery from Graham Hume. Just a little bit of nibble early doors off that type of length, and still searching for a first international wicket, Graham Hume. But he bowled with great credit in that one-day international against New Zealand. He came in that third ODI where New Zealand scored 360. He only went at a tick above a run of ball, which was a very good effort for a seam bowler that day.
Well, he was under pressure early, if you remember. Martin Guptill took a liking to him, launching him into the side screen on a couple of occasions. But like you said, he did recover quite well, and he actually bowled reasonably well towards the back end of that innings as well. So inexperienced at the international level, but he's played a lot of cricket, both before he came to Ireland and with the Warriors in recent years. So he's someone who knows his game very well.
He's causing Zazai some trouble here. That's just nipping around a little bit, and Zazai, who hasn't played much cricket recently, it is obviously fair to say he's come off the back of a little injury concern as well. So this is a man that's perhaps short of batting out in the middle.
Well, it's not often in T20 cricket, is it, Andrew? You see batters beaten on both sides of the bat. Previous delivery, that one looked like it left him and beat the outside edge, and that one's cut him in half and beat the inside edge. It's top quality stuff with the newish ball.
And a fantastic over from Graham Hume. A great way to start off his T20 international career. Just the one single from a 15 without loss after 3.
Yeah, just to return to that Zazai discussion we were having, that one innings, the 162 against Ireland, our resident stat Ger Siggins has been busy on Twitter. And he's let us know that 20% of Zazai's T20 international runs came in that one innings, and he's played 25 games.
Scoring 162 in a T20 game.
It's obscene, really, isn't it?
It's tremendous. Little goes short to Gurbaz, who's quick onto that pull shot. Doesn't get all of it, though. Curtis Camphor very easily going to be able to come round and retrieve that. It's just going to be 2. I think Little is just ever so slightly rushed Gurbaz.
Well, he still hit it in front of square, which is perhaps a sign that, like you said, he probably picked up the length quite quickly. Interesting that just after that delivery, Paul Sterling will come out of slip and go out to mid-wicket. But also, we were talking about the dimensions of the ground. That leg side is now much shorter than it was yesterday, and I think it probably would have raced away to the boundary on the shorter side.
Pulled. Oh, tremendous effort from Fionn Hand at mid-arm. Would have been a spectacular catch if he'd taken it, but Josh Little has been crunched to mid-arm by Gurbaz. It will have to go down as a half chance. But it's just gone past Fionn Hand, who was in a few steps at mid-arm. If he was right on that ring, it may have been a bit more conventional a shot.
Oh, well, he's nearly announced himself to international cricket in a stunning style. Just fantastic effort to get to that, I think. And I don't think Josh Little would have been telling him to sit on the ring at this stage of the game.
Well, that last delivery from Josh Little had a little bit of zip behind it.
He's very much a rhythm bowler, isn't he? Little, well, all bowlers are, but it's easy to detect with Little whether he's in that rhythm or not. He definitely was yesterday evening. And I think on that delivery, he just looked just a little bit more smooth in his action getting to the crease, and that's always a good sign for him.
Gurbaz wants 2 here, but he's not going to get it. Just tucking that one away off the hip. Yeah, you can tell really with the pace more so that Little bowls that he's bowling well rhythmically and in good form in recent weeks, which is always good for Irish cricket.
Circumspect start from Zazai, 2 off 10. We mentioned his career strike rate is up towards 150, so he's mistimed that pull shot there into the leg side. This is unlike him.
Well, I don't think it's really been by design, to be honest. I think he's just struggling a little bit out there. As you said in the previous over of Graham Hume, he was just beaten on both sides of the bat. He was just a little bit indecisive coming forward, and the runs that he has scored have been relatively mistimed at the moment. So perhaps just struggling himself to get used to conditions quickly. That is an absolute brute from Josh Little to finish off the 4th over. A very good one, despite 8 runs coming off it. A little bit unlucky that was the case. 4 overs gone. Afghanistan 23 without loss.
Yes, it has been that, like we said, a bit of a circumspect start, but bar that one opportunity to Fionn Hand, which would have been, let's be honest, it would have been an absolutely stunning catch. It's been relatively chanceless, these 4 overs for Afghanistan, and that was their undoing yesterday, was the fact that they did lose that magic number of 3 wickets in the power play. Mark Adair is going to come back into the attack, just the 1 over for Hume on debut so far.
Adair goes short to Zazai, and perhaps a hint fortunate to get away with that one.
Just a hint. I wonder if the over called. It looked quite leg side to me. Yeah, something's got to give with Zazai here. Normally quite an aggressive player. 3 off 12.
Well, he's plundered that one straight, but again, just not getting really anything on it. And Graham Hume has done well to stop it. He can't prevent them getting back for 2. But Zazai, you can see there, that was the first delivery, really, that he's had a sniff of being somewhat in the slot. And he's really, really went after that.
Well, it's probably not the worst result in the world for Ireland there. That there was that hint of a fumble from Graham Hume that allowed Zazai to get back on strike. Because after playing such a false stroke, he was fortunate he hit it as straight as he did. Otherwise, it would have been straight down Midon's throat. Get him back on strike, keep the pressure on, and they put Midon back as soon as he played that aggressive stroke.
Swing and a miss now from Zazai. You can sense he's trying to tick here now. He's 5 off 14 in the power play. Afghanistan, again, just not getting off to the start they would have hoped for. You know, I know, look, it's better to be 0 down than what we saw yesterday, where they'd lost 2 wickets at this stage and lost 3 wickets by the end of the power play, but it's still not the amount of runs they'd have been craving at this early stage. Zazai cuts away, but straight to Paul Stirling. It's a pretty occupied offside field in the ring.
Yeah, it's good from Adair. He knows Zazai's ticking. Just took the pace off there to see if he'd go after it. I think Zazai read it out of the hand pretty nicely. It seems like every Afghan batter on this tour so far they pretty struggled to get going early on in their innings. The 1 or 2 players that have gotten scores have caught up, obviously, but it's interesting. As a team, they're struggling in conditions. Well, not there. That's a wide half volley that is thrashed away through extra cover and just relieves a bit of the pressure that Mark Adair was building.
Yeah, it was a slower delivery from Mark Adair, but he's misplaced this one, really. And even though Zazai hasn't found things easy so far, he's never going to miss out on that one. Smashes it away to the fence for his first boundary. Cutting away, but straight to the man. Fionn Hand as well to prevent a single there. So it's been still a pretty good first 5 overs from Ireland, but Afghanistan are wicketless. 29 without loss after 5 overs. Myself and Nathan are going to just step out of the commentary box for the next 5 and leave you in the capable hands of Alan Lewis and Hamid Sheja.
So 29 without loss after 5. A subdued beginning, Hamid?
So far, I would say so. Looking at Hazratullah Zazai, he seems to be trying to find his feet. The good thing is he's not getting frustrated. Usually he does that. That's one weakness that I've seen him playing over the years. He can get frustrated very quickly. But as I said, he hasn't been playing much, wasn't part of the squad in the previous 2 games. So, yeah. I won't worry too much about him missing a few balls, but
Graham Hume resuming from the City end. He bowled a really good over from the Dundonald then, only went for 1. And it's one of his appeals, if you haven't been close to him, Hamid. He's Tim Murtagh-esque Bowls a very good line of length, bowls pretty straight, not a great pace.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Something I've noticed over the couple of last games as well with the Irish bowling. They have stuck to their line and length. That has been a strength, and they've done a good job. Well played.
And he's found his feet there,
Yep.
says I. That was
Yep.
wide. And he latched onto it very well, finding the gap. And that speds away for 4. And probably a measure of that little bit of patience you were talking about, Hamid.
Yeah. No, I think he needs few more deliveries in that area, I think. And soon he will be off.
This could be interesting. And again, Gurbaz needs to realise who his batting partner is, Hamid.
Absolutely, absolutely. He's not very keen on running. And interestingly, some fans in Afghanistan call him the Afghan Inzamam ul Haq, another international star who wouldn't want to run. I remember Arjuna Ranatunga was another one.
Gosh, we could have a quiz on this.
Quick single, well run.
Yeah, Balbirnie was kind of hanging on the edge of the circle. The value there was playing it late. Says I just let that come on and softer hands and an easy single, and that's good from him.
Yeah. Rahmanullah seems comfortable today. I was speaking to the manager who told me he has been suffering from a bad toothache for the past few days. It can be a haunting experience if you have.
Don't tell me about toothaches, Hamid. One of the most distressing things you can have.
Given as a wide.
If you think about this one, 20% of Zazai's entire career runs happened in one innings in the UAE. Against Ireland, should I say, in Derridun in 2019.
Yep, I was there.
Ireland
Good running again, yep.
Yeah, Ireland will be disappointed with that. That really probably should have been cut off by George Dockrell, but the tendency, of course, is in the power play,
Yeah.
the tendency is for those inner circle fielders to hang on the edge of the ring.
Yeah, I just have a feeling that Afghans have come out with a plan today. The partnerships or the lack of them was an issue in the last couple of games. They have managed to stick together so far. They need that.
Well, we spoke pre-match about that. The biggest thing is 0 wickets column. And
Well played again. Yep, he's warming up. You don't want to see that as an Ireland fan.
And it brings us to the end of the 6th. Afghanistan 41 without loss. And that was more slapped through extra cover, Hamid.
Absolutely. As I said, he needed a few deliveries in that sort of area. They should avoid that. The last thing they want is for him to wake up, to say so, and he can take the game away from Ireland if he stays there for another 4 or 5 overs.
There we are. There's the opening partnership, 41 evenly spread. Gurbaz 15 from 15, and Zazai accelerating in the last 2
Yep,
overs.
not bad at all, looking at how they were doing in the previous games.
So a change from the Dundonald end. Gareth Delaney coming into the attack. He's really prospered and blossomed over the last short period of time and really given his captain some options, Hamid.
Yeah, absolutely. Zazai and Gurbaz both come from southeastern Afghanistan, from the provinces of Bakhtia and Khost, 2 of the provinces who have given some stars, superstars, I would say, to the Afghan national cricket team. Those provinces, they're cricket crazy, lots of players over the past 10 years coming from that part of Afghanistan. Huge fan followers in those parts of Afghanistan.
And this power play, it's the first time in 12 T20s that Ireland haven't taken a wicket in the power play, which is a measure, Hamid, of what you've probably talked about, Afghanistan's plan. And very clever too.
I haven't seen them playing too many risky shots so far today. Something they did quite a lot in the previous two games. Some of the players, I saw Hashmatullah Shahidi going for the reverse sweep 5 or 6 times in the previous game, and he eventually he was dismissed with trying a reverse sweep.
Yeah, it can be a very profitable shot for those that are good at it.
Yeah.
And again, can get you into all sorts of trouble also, chewing up dot balls and then eventually getting out. And Delaney starting well again. Only 1 from his 3 deliveries so far.
Yeah, good single. They're taking their time, considering the fact that both of them have not been feeling well over the past few days. Gurbaz with a toothache, and Hazratullah, we heard that he was having some fever and temperatures.
Oh,
Well played.
that's an excellent shot.
Yep. If you can sweep it well, you don't need to reverse sweep it. Well played.
Well, I think the thing there is he got himself into a great position to sweep. He got low, was able to get it aerial. Have a look at this, and you can see that head going towards the ball and really just eased it over 45 for 4. Excellent batting. But a good start all the same from Delaney. Only 6 from the over. 47 without loss at the end of the 7th. And again, we were talking off air, Hamid, and also pre-match, you know, the value of wickets in hand, because in the main, most of the major clubbing, I watched South Africa do much the same. They plundered Ireland in the last 4 overs of the innings.
So. Afghanistan, they bat deep and all the way until 9 and 10, with Rashid Khan coming out and trying his helicopter shots. So they won't be worried about the runs on the board that much. It's important that they have managed to keep their wickets, and I think symbolically, if they manage to put up a partnership of 50 or more, that would be significant.
So a big moment for the new cap, number 71, Fionn Hand on debut. His mother, of course, Brenda, works for Cricket Ireland, and she was out there at the capping ceremony. A very proud moment for Phil and the family. Always a great moment when you make your debut.
Beautiful gesture, absolutely.
It was kind of a wonderment around the press and otherwise. Would Ireland stick with the same team and try and press for a series victory? But no, they wanted to try and develop that little bit of depth.
Quick run. And that's another thing I've been impressed so far. They have been running well.
Again, huge number of titanic struggles between these two teams dating back to the early 2000s, both associate nations. And Ireland really had the upper hand in the early stages. And Afghanistan took over with aplomb.
Yeah.
One question, I mean, is there ever a question mark, Rashid Khan, the way his batting has developed, to come up higher in the order in T20 cricket?
I was speaking to him the other day, and I asked him if he now considered himself a complete all-rounder. He said he always did. It's just that they never gave him a chance as a batsman. But yeah, I think league cricket, franchise cricket, has really helped him polish his batting. And there is this entertainment factor involved in franchise cricket. You need to entertain the crowds as well. And that's why I think the Hyderabad Sunrisers wanted him to bat a bit up the order. And he does have that entertainment factor.
He certainly is box office, Ahmed. There's no doubt about that. Always a joy to watch. Plays the game with a smile on his face the whole time. It was just something that I kind of felt within this Afghan setup. I think he might need to take the captain Nabi out for a few dinners and maybe convince him that he can get up the order.
No, absolutely. He can. He's an entertainer, and he's the kind of player who could put the pressure on the opposition, coming out a bit higher and playing 10-15 balls. He can really entertain. And well struck, but straight to the fielder.
Again.
And I think that brings up the 50 partnership for the opening wicket, and that's significant. That's something Afghanistan hasn't been able to do in the previous 2 games.
No doubt about that. And of course another thorn in Ireland's time playing against Afghanistan. Najibullah Zadran,
Yeah.
vastly experienced, and again a great finisher too. Fionhan getting terribly excited.
Yep,
He's demolished
yep,
everything
yep,
there,
yep,
Hamid.
yep. Yeah. Looks safe to me, but
No, he looked very safe
Yeah,
to
I
me
think
too.
it
But
was
it brings us to the end of the 8th. Afghanistan 52 without loss. So what are your thoughts from here, Hamid, in terms of the next passage of play for Afghanistan?
I think this is the kind of base that they needed for their innings, and Afghanistan have managed to give themselves that opportunity in this game. They just need to stick together, I think. There is no need to kind of go for the adventurous, crazy shots yet. I think they still need to stick together for another 4 to 5 overs, and then probably in the last 7 and 8 overs, that's where they can think about putting a bigger total on the board. They still need to stick together, I think, and so far they have done well. They needed this. They desperately needed this.
And looking forward to, obviously, 2 teams in transition, Hamid. Who are the players from Afghanistan that we should be looking to in the future? Obviously, we're just used to them for the first time, really.
Absolutely. Afghanistan, especially in the bowling department, they have been known globally for their spin attack with the likes of Rashid Khan, Mujib Zadran, and the captain Mohammad Nabi himself. Another 17, 18-year-old Noor Ahmed, who has been playing in England, is another name.
Of course, he's playing in the 100 at the moment.
Yep,
Noor
yep.
Ahmed, but
Probably that's the reason why he wasn't part of the squad. But interestingly, a couple of new names emerging are not spinners. They are fast bowlers. Fazil Haq Farooqi, he seems to be mentioned quite a lot. He was, although he didn't get to play a lot in the Indian Premier League, but he was part of it. And Azmat Umaza is another one. Well played, and just one bounce to the fielder.
it's quite interesting there. Harry Tector is, of course, probably Ireland's premier fielder. And there was an incident yesterday with Andy McBride down at this end of the ground. If we look at that backdrop of the trees there, because he seemed a little bit slower to react. And again, quite rightly holding his guns. Often you see fielders come in too quickly and balls go over their head, but just didn't seem to pick that up, or maybe just in some way delayed in terms of judging the velocity, which Sazai hits the ball. Camphor to
And speaking of fielding, I don't think Afghanistan covered themselves. They didn't do a good job yesterday. I mean, I think they easily gave away 15, 20 runs because of their misfielding, especially down there on the boundary with, I think it was Ibrahim Zadran. They didn't look sharp in the field at all.
Oh, that's a very good shot. It's full.
Very good shot. Yep.
Camphor, but Gurbaz has laid into that. That's a gorgeous shot, Hamid.
It's a very good shot, absolutely. Gurbaz looks fine. He looks comfortable today. Probably, I don't know. Sometimes it depends on who you're playing with. Probably Hazrat seems to have an effect on Gurbaz as well. He looks confident.
Oh, and that's a bit of fortune.
Yep.
But with third man up in the circle, it's always on. Interestingly, that was the cause of his dismissal yesterday.
Yes,
Hamid went
absolutely.
straight to that fielder.
Absolutely. No, I think Ireland need a wicket now. I think if these two manage to stay together for the next 4 or 5 overs, I think they will make it difficult for Ireland. On the other hand, the Afghans are doing a wonderful job, I think.
Very much so. They've been watchful, authoritative, good cricket shots. That could be 4 more. And indeed it is.
Turning out to be a very expensive over for Ireland. But probably this is what Afghanistan needed for that transition from the first stage of being cautious and careful and keeping their wickets, and now probably they're thinking about putting some more runs on the board.
Well, it's again interesting. Curtis Camphor, he's a lively medium fast bowler, but can sometimes, in our opinion, just mix things up a little bit too much, as opposed to concentrating on that line and length just there.
Well bowled.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh,
he's
called the wide.
This is another area of distress for us as a commentary team. I was talking to Paul Reynolds before the game. He tried to claim otherwise, but obviously in our league cricket he would umpire a lot and he'd say that is a wide ball and then take 5 seconds to tell everyone in the audience it was a wide ball. However, we have one more. And that completes the 9th over at last. Hamid 66 without loss, Afghanistan.
Now that's a very good score, I would say, given the fact that they haven't lost any wickets.
Well, of course, Mohammad Nabi and that game 1 score, he just felt that Afghanistan needed another 15 or 20 runs.
True.
It was a nervous...
I wouldn't be surprised if Nabi sends out Najib at 3 or even Rashid Khan. You never know. I think they have given themselves that base. They have wickets in hand. Why not take a gamble and experiment and send somebody who can completely change the momentum? I mean, they have the upper hand right now, but the crowd wouldn't mind Rashid Khan out there.
Well, there was one aspect we were talking about yesterday. It's been lovely, Hamid, for us to watch how the team have engaged with a vast amount of travelling support from all areas of the world here to support their team. And after the match, no sitting in the tent feeling sorry for themselves out to meet the public, and that's nice to see.
That's true. I met somebody who has travelled all the way down from Australia to watch Afghanistan. That's impressive.
Again, Camphor resorted to a slower ball bumper in the previous over, and Hand does the same. And
I think Gurbaz has decided to go for it. Looks like.
Well, that's what we would call in Ireland just a genuine long hop, a buffet delivery. We would call that. And as you say, the run rate's ever increasing here, Hamid.
It is. No, he's not helping himself. Now, I can see pressure creeping in with the Irish bowlers. I think the last over was a good one for Afghanistan.
Yeah, they've just increased the tempo. Gurbaz now 39 from 27. That's going to be 4 more.
Another 4. Yep, the plan is clear now from now on, I think.
Well, any width, of course, at all is going to be punished. And again, that was wide and played beautifully late by Gurbaz, and just dissecting those 2 fielders behind square on the offside. And again, Hamid, one of the qualities is everything so far from Afghanistan has been quality cricket shots.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, you don't often see Hazratullah out there on the pitch in the 10th over and his strike rate is under 100. That's surprising, but he's out there with a plan. That's a huge shot. And I think it's out of the ground. Wonderfully played by Gurbaz. That takes him to 49.
Well, that is, Hamid, a very large 6. And of course, it's with the wind down there as well. And this, an expensive over.
It is.
So far for Ireland. 16 from it so far with a ball to go.
That's a big shot. No, that was massive. They haven't hit enough of those in the previous games. I think in the last game they didn't hit any 6s at all.
Well, I certainly saw him pre-match, Gurbaz. He was lampooning them over there with great regularity in practice. So he's put his practice to work in the middle. And they're getting themselves into an incredibly strong position here as we approach the 10th over. And no surprise, obviously, a ball to go that the teams are going to take drinks. So, of course, these conditions, Hamid, you'd be well used to in Afghanistan, clear blue skies.
Absolutely. I mean, 35 is good weather in Kabul these days, but it could go up to 38 and even 39 in the capital in Kabul. Whilst in some provinces, 45 in June, July, August is normal. In the province where Gurbaz comes from, Khost, it's one of the hottest provinces, and it can easily reach up to 45, 46 degrees. And he, as a child, has played most of his cricket in those sorts of temperatures. And same with Hazratullah Zazai. So I don't think the temperature would be much of an issue for them. They're used to it. But I've been speaking to some Irish fans, and they said this is not normal for them. This is too hot in this time of the year.
Well, it's certainly very hot. It's welcome for any cricket lover weather like this.
Absolutely.
And tell me, Hamid, within domestic cricket in Afghanistan, obviously there's been lots of change. How has that developed over the course of the last, more particularly in the last 4 or 5 years?
It's still work in progress. They do not have the kind of domestic structures that other international ICC full-time members have. It's a long journey for Afghanistan. But the Shpagiza Domestic Cricket League has been a massive help. I think that's the sort of tournament that gives platform to players like Nur Ahmad, I mentioned earlier. He was 16 when Rais Ahmadzai, the deputy coach of the Afghan side, brought him from his home province, from Khost, to the capital Kabul, and he actually argued with some of the teams on his behalf. He said, this boy has something, you just need to give him a platform, and he is playing in the 100 right now.
Well, of course, that's something, again, country of Ireland's size is when you see talent. I was always an advocate. I obviously played, but also selected, and when you see a talent, you've just got to push forward, because a lot of the domestic youth structure here is very good, and the tendency is, now obviously it's aided by the provincial setup that we have now, following, test status and all that sort of stuff, so there is that platform to move on. And you're looking at a good few of them there, the likes of Tucker, Tector, Delaney, Adair, Little. You know, that's been part of the what I would call excellent transition. And again, the gambles that were taken at the right time to do that sort of thing, because teams do find that happens to them, and Ireland did. Obviously the dream team of 2011, the latter stages of 15, and then you get that slump. And
an extra run to end an already expensive over.
Certainly was, and Afghanistan have moved on to 83 without loss at the end of 10, and an excellent half century from Gurbaz from 31 deliveries. Started slowly, but just got into his work, and
he needed that.
Excellent today. And you're right, just took that little bit of extra time and then really showed us the way. So Mohammed Nabi will be absolutely delighted with the work of the two openers.
He will be, absolutely.
And it's time for me to say farewell to Hamid and welcome back Andrew Blair White into the commentary box. Well, since you've departed, Andrew, things have moved on a shade.
Yes, definitely. Departed at 29 without loss after 5. It had been a very circumspect start, but I don't want to harp on about stuff that we've said plenty of the time, but when you've got partnership beginning to brew, when you don't lose wickets in that power play, when you've got a bit of a base to go on, seen in the last couple of overs that Gurbaz has just managed to really find his feet, and you felt it was about time, and it was going to be some Afghanistan batter that had to click today, and Gurbaz looks to be that man.
Certainly is. After two failures, a little bit unlucky in the second game to find the solitary fielder at short third man, but that's what he did. But he's certainly cashed in today and taken his time and just motored really for that period that you were off commentary, Andrew, and he's played beautifully.
He has, bringing up his fourth 50 in T20 international cricket in the process, and there'll still be plenty more to come, one would have to imagine. Zazai hasn't been probably the Hazratullah Zazai that Ireland are certainly used to, but he's done a job in keeping company with Gurbaz and starting off this partnership in a good way.
Well, that was a very good piece of bowling by Gareth Delaney. He held that last delivery back. That one a little bit quicker. Nearly down to save the one. But it's a great sight for Captain Andrew Balbirnie. This elevation of Gareth Delaney. A little bit of security in the middle overs. He's done very well, Andrew.
Yeah, he's done terrifically. He's bowled very nicely in the last month, 6 weeks. And he's going to prevent another boundary from this over. So just the 6 singles from it, you'd take that at any stage, but especially given the pressure that Ireland have been under in the last couple of overs. 11 gone, Afghanistan 89 without loss.
Well, we spoke, didn't we, Andrew, in game 1? There was that period when Delaney and Dockrell came on. I'm somewhat surprised that we haven't seen George Dockrell. I know I've been on the George Dockrell bandwagon, but since his 2 overs, 2 for 7, didn't get a bowl yesterday. And we're moving into the 12th over. This is kind of a spell when, speaking with Gary Wilson last night, they like Josh Little to bowl in around over 11, over 12. But just surprised not to see George Dockrell in at some stage into this attack. But
well, I like the option of bringing Little on. I think it does serve a purpose, and it's a genuine wicket-taking option at this time of the innings. But at the same stage, you know, when you're going at over 8s as a team, Gareth Delaney's 2 overs have gone for 12 and looked difficult. I must say, I'm a little bit shocked myself, really. Just don't want to get into this habit of making George Dockrell an underused bowler.
Well, of course, the other side of it, Andrew, is the resources that Andrew Balbirnie has at his disposal, and sometimes it can be a weakness. And of course, we haven't even mentioned that could be a chance. A dare, and indeed he's taken it. Excellent. It was a question, really. He looked at Lorcan Tucker initially and then said, I'll have all of that, said Mark Adair, and took a very comfortable catch moving backwards. And that a valuable wicket for Ireland and justifying the return of Josh Little.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I said at the start of this over. He's a real wicket-taking option, and he's just rushed Gurbaz, as he has done so throughout this series, just a little bit quicker onto him than Gurbaz perhaps was expecting. He's going to depart for what's been a very well-made 52, but just got none of that. And Mark Adair, not easy, those types of catches, but he's taken it very comfortably and very well. And Gurbaz goes, for 53, should I say. It's 52 currently on the scoreboard at the ground, but departs for 53 from 35 balls. Very good knock.
Super knock, that has to be said. Done a great job for his team, Gurbaz. You can't ask for more than that in T20 cricket. But you're right, Andrew. The one factor that Little has in his armoury is he hurries players. And that took the slice of the bat. It's in around that niggling area, that rib area. And you can get the angle of that sort of delivery right. They can be the rewards, and the rewards he got.
Brings Ibrahim Zadran to the crease, who looked good yesterday with bat in hand. Even though he departed sharper than he'd have wanted to. He looked really the only Afghanistan batter to look properly at ease at the crease for his 17. I think a day, though, however, he'll want to forget in the field.
I think it was one of the worst fielding displays at international level I think I have ever seen. Now, that might be a big statement, but the ground fielding was nothing short of atrocious.
Yeah, it wasn't a day Afghanistan as a team would have been proud of, I suspect. So I just had a funny feeling the way Ireland approached that run chase yesterday. Actually, there was a real game to be had for Afghanistan. And I think just something that was at the back of my mind last night, thinking back on the game, has Little slightly rushes Zadran there, but he's got a decent enough piece of it out towards the mid-wicket boundary. Going to get 2 to get off the mark.
Well, I would say...
I was just to complete my point there, I was not overly impressed with the way they approached the run chase.
Subdued, you would have said.
Just didn't... I thought the game, there could have been a more forceful approach, and they lost a couple of games last summer against Zimbabwe playing in a relatively similar mindset. And I say it just because actually, since Heinrich Milan's come in, it's completely against how they've been playing in terms of their batting has been full of aggression, full of attacking options. I just felt they went slightly into their bunker chasing a small score yesterday.
Yeah, it's a very fair point. Andrew, the other one I was going to say about Afghanistan's fielding, of course, one of Ireland's favourites, John Mooney, used to be the fielding coach for Afghanistan, and if he was watching yesterday and he was in the Afghan changing rooms, I'd say teacups could have flown against the walls. Old John Boy has a short fuse, as we know, but does everything with great heart and was one of Ireland's great fielders, and he brings a great amount of enthusiasm. I certainly know Harry Tector leant on his ears, felt his fielding wasn't at the level it should have been, picked up the phone, one man to ring, John Mooney, who was only too thrilled to help, and loves his cricket. John, wonderful representative for Ireland, played with his heart in his sleeve and with a full heart. I was there the day he hit the winning runs in Bangalore, 2011. One hell of a party that was, Andrew Blair White.
You're going to tell me about the Brett Lee getting his guitar out story again.
No, that was the last night against India. There was a plane to be got at 7 a.m. No point in going to bed, as you well know, Andrew. Just keep playing there, Brett. Keep strumming. A lot of Oasis that night. 96 for 1 from 12. A lot of today is going to be the day.
I'd say you were joining in.
You betcha. Some of the Clontarf contingent also, Billy Coughlin. All of their turbans on them. We bought these turbans downtown, so it was a fantastic, special cultural occasion in the bar of the Royal Gardenia as Delaney resumes. Oh, and that could be a long way. Oh, it's actually only just crept over, Andrew, because there is quite a breeze. Harry Tector thought he might have been in business just there, but it just made it over the line.
Yeah, off the bat, this looked like it was going to go a long, long way from Hazratullah Zazai. It was the first one he's really got out of the meat. And in the end, as you mentioned, only around 5 yards over the rope. One of the bigger boundaries there today, down towards long on and wide long on. Zazai pummels this one down. Just going to be one. I suppose the concern for Ireland is that Zazai's there on 36 without really having gotten going.
From 37 rocks. Which wouldn't be normal business. Irish bull is his eye.
And he's a man that could make up for that pretty swiftly if he did get going.
Well, it was something we saw with both New Zealand and South Africa. Large appeal. Mark Hawthorne not really interested. There's been a huge amount of activity for the umpires through this series, really, has there, Andrew?
No, not at all. Now that you say it, very few real LBW appeals. I suppose in the first T20, Rashid Khan had a few stern appeals turned down. But no, it's been a quiet few days for the umpires.
Said that to Rowley Black after game one. Bit of an armchair ride there for you, Rowley. You're normally in the thick of things. Of course, umpiring has been pretty good throughout the Irish international summer, I would say. I think there's been some excellent decisions. Obviously, no DRS for this T20 series. And interestingly, too, to back that up, we've had no LBWs given in the series. Always like bringing you these tidbits of information, Andrew.
You feel he's starting to get going here, Zazai. Just hitting that ball a little bit firmer the last couple of overs.
Well, when your first ball goes for 6, Delaney has recovered well. I've been very impressed with Gareth Delaney through this series. If he can get himself a few runs, he'll be a really valuable member of this team. Not that he isn't already, but it's the end of the 13th. 106 for 1. What do you think Afghanistan will be looking towards? 160, 170?
I was about to say 170, 175. I suspect, given the situation they're in at the moment. As you can see, the scorecard on your screens, Zazai. 37 not out. Relatively subdued for his standards. Ramanullah Gurbaz, superb for his 53. He departed to Josh Little in the previous over from the City end of the ground. And those are those bowling figures. Josh Little again leading the way, 1 for 18 from his 3. But Gareth Delaney's 3 overs have been miserly as well. We're going to see Fionn Hand come back into the attack. So clearly Ireland favouring the seam options above the second spinner today.
Well, they have enough of them. And again, I suppose, you know, it's that interesting piece, isn't it? You know, when you've got a debutante coming in, you have experience, you've just got to see how that will go. Could have easily turned his hand to Dockrell, but I would sense if spin is to continue, it will continue from the Dundonald end, you know, with the breeze to the shorter boundary would be very inviting.
Yes, and also it's giving a prime opportunity for the likes of Hand and Hume to come in and be tested. There's no point bringing new players into a side and then not bowling them in difficult periods of the game, trying to test the mettle of some players ahead of potentially World Cup squad inclusions. That's sharp work from Tector, and it was almost a run out there. Certainly Zadran would have been short with the direct hit, and they do manage to scramble back, but his heart was in his mouth halfway down there, Ibrahim Zadran.
Tector always loves those situations. And again, you're absolutely right. I think a direct hit would have been the end of Zadran. And Sterling has taken an excellent catch. And Fionn Hand, on debut, takes a wicket. And he's absolutely thrilled, and rightly so. And as is Sterling. Big hugs and kisses for those two. A wonderful moment for Fionn Hand on debut.
Yeah, very much so, and the fact that it was a really clever piece of bowling as well is the extra added cherry on top of the cake, really. He's completely foxed Hazratullah Zazai here with a slower delivery. We've seen this in the Interpros all year. Just completely outfoxes him, and Paul Sterling yet again with a seriously good catch. One of the best sets of hands in the entirety of international cricket. Zazai goes for 39.
Well, that's a very important wicket for Ireland. There's no doubt about that. And this was something Ireland did in game one. This strangulation in the middle overs. And that, as you say, Andrew, a very good piece of bowling from Fionn Hand. And an excellent catch from Paul Sterling, who continues with the bathrobe. I was only talking to his father on the sideline, and actually his girlfriend, about this matter of, like, not as small, but it gets very sweaty apparently. So needs the bath towel, I believe. I'm surprised actually too we didn't see Fionn Hand's mother, Brenda.
Well, I think she's been pacing around out the back of the tent.
I thought with Fionn getting his first wicket she might have been on the ground. She was out at the capping ceremony. It was a family affair out there. It's the first time I've seen a mother at a capping ceremony.
Oh, well, good on her.
Absolutely. Much loved is our Brenda Hand.
A very proud moment. That will live long in the memory, and great for Fionn Hand to take that first international wicket. One that he will never forget. Now bowling to Najibullah Zadran, who's pulled that away. Mark Adair's down at fine legs. Just going to be the single. Now going back to Paul Sterling, I do understand it, and today's towel is of relatively okay length. It was the one yesterday that was actually touching the floor.
Well, the only reason I say it is the only Irish fielder with a towel. He doesn't even bowl. Used to, of course. Very underused, in my opinion, in the bowling department. You could bring that compliment to 8. But he seems to be just a reluctant bowler right now. Paul Sterling, always I felt, did a very good job and was underutilised by Ireland in that department.
It's often said a lot, though, about his bowling, that he's a reluctant bowler. But yet, every time he's played in the Vitality Blast, he's been used by whatever team he's played for, whether that be Middlesex, the year he was at Northants, as a regular bowler.
Well, What's the reason? He just puts the green jersey on and says, sorry, Skip. Go to someone else.
That's a very good shot from Ibrahim Zadran. And despite a very valiant attempt from Curtis Camphor at the deep mid-wicket boundary, it does run away for 4. It's a boundary to end the 14th over. Afghanistan 114 for 2.
Good shot, that. Of course, we have 2 Zadrans at the crease. One a left-hander and one a right-hander. Bullet, of course. Left-hander, vastly experienced, vice-captain of the side. Spoke when you were off air. Been a thorn in Ireland's side over many years.
The other T20 international debutant now coming back into the attack as well. Graham Hume equipped himself very well in his 2 overs in the power play.
Well, his first over went for 1, Andrew, from the Dundonald end. Obviously, I understand part of the tactic, but if you were Graham Hume, you'd be kind of saying, Skip, went another over from the Dundonald end.
Good start again from Hume.
Well, just talking about Paul Sterling, he holds Ireland record in ODI, 6 for 55 versus Afghanistan in Noida. Just for the record books, I just thought I'd bring you that today, Andrew.
A mine of information, Alan.
Always kept alive. Of course, all this information supplied by the great Stato, Ger Siggins at the back of the box. Always lovely to get these tidbits of information that are of great appeal to our viewing public. And that's just been helped on its way. And it's the maximum over Fionn Hand there at deep backward square. Just helped on its way, really, this, Andrew, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a good shot from Ibrahim Zadran. It's a slightly shorter leg side boundary hitting towards the pavilion this afternoon. But it's a very good shot and backing up. I must say, Ibrahim Zadran's probably been the batter when you think of his 25 not out in the first game, where he came in, hit some lusty blows at the end, batted nicely yesterday before departing for 17. He's probably been the one Afghanistan batter that's looked most at home in these conditions.
And he sets up lovely, doesn't he? He's lovely and steady at the crease, evenly balanced. Foot movement is good. Already 15 from 9 deliveries faced. There can play comfortably either side of the wicket. Dockrell, ever attentive. Nice bullet. Somewhat getting in the way there of Tucker. Short. Probably lucky to get away with that, Graham Hume. That was very short, and it just stood up and was wanting hitting, really. Of course, Graham Hume, a bowler on our own domestic first-class cricket, we used to regularly refer to him as the miserly Graham Hume. Different ball game here, Andrew.
Well, those that would have tuned into our IP50 coverage from last year in 2020 would have been inundated with you calling him miserly.
That's a better length. And given it the respect it deserves, easily through for a single.
I think I've had to keep it going this year myself. You Slightly slack on the IP50 coverage from yourself this year, huh?
Well, other jobs to be done, as you well know, Andrew, but always available in the main. Of course, for all our Irish viewers, Green Ball podcasts. It's all there.
Pulled away again. And they're going to come back for 2 this time round, and will do so successfully. Good over for Afghanistan, though. They're in a good position at the 15 over mark. 127 for 2. They'll be spying a big enough score from here. Ibrahim Zadran on 17. Najibullah Zadran on 5.
170-180 certainly looks on at this stage, and the backbone of that has been loss of very few wickets, and the 2 wickets to fall. Fionn Hand, of course, on debut, and Josh Little, the ever impressive man of the match, of course, yesterday. And hasn't been a bad display of bowling. Probably a shabby enough beginning, just lacked that little bit of oomph. But it looks a good pitch, Andrew. Again, hasn't taken a huge amount of turn. And as I say that, I'm about to bid farewell, where I leave way for Nathan Johns.
Thank you very much, Alan. This marker there is coming back into the attack and is immediately slammed over his head for a 1 bounce 4. Well, that's some way of being greeted back into the attack from Adair, who hasn't been quite at his best today. And Ibrahim Zadran looks in imperious form.
Yeah, what a shot that was. Climbed into it over extra cover. Just a touch over pitch from Mark Adair. But the way Afghanistan are batting today, not too surprising to see those types of deliveries disappear. I see the value of wickets in hand now, aren't we? Afghanistan had hardly any yesterday, having lost plenty of early wickets in their innings, but today only 2 down at the 15 over mark. It's a completely different game for them.
Just a little bit of a delay here. I'm not sure whether what Rowley Black was looking for. I think maybe just confirmation that it definitely was a boundary 4. Match referee Graham McRae probably surveying our pictures. Pulled away. It's another lovely shot. It's just going to be 1 though this time round.
Yeah, a good bit of work out there from Graham Hume. He's picked that up at deep square instantly. His first step was excellent. Got him into a good position there. Cut off the second run. Yeah, it's probably the first time this series that we've seen Afghanistan properly on top. I know in the first game they finished well with that last over of 21 off market there that gave them a bit of momentum, but up until that point Ireland would have been relatively happy. So this is an interesting challenge for this Irish side. It's the first time in 3 games they've been properly under the pump.
Yeah, I think it's conducive to good cricket all round, to be honest, for Ireland. It will mean they'll have to chase a big enough score again if they want to go and seal this series 3-0 and make sure that there's no coming back for Afghanistan. But it's just been a different approach, just a little bit more busyness at the crease from Afghanistan. And it's good to see Gurbaz back in the runs. Hazrat Azai, as much as he probably wasn't at his absolute best today, I think he probably just gives an air of confidence, him playing almost. It's very short again from Mark Adair, dug into the pitch and slower as well. And Ibrahim Zadran's almost swung his back out there, trying to get that one over backward point. Fails to get any contact. Persisting with this short ploy, and they're going to take on the fielder, and it's going to be turned down. Ibrahim Zadran's back for 2 there. Good running between the 2 Zadrans here. get back for 2.
And that would have been close. Certainly looked very close from our angle. A good bit of work out there in the deep. Looks like it's Curtis Camphor at deep mid-wicket. But like you said, excellent piece of running. Adair's doing a good job here making Zadran hit towards the larger square leg boundary, but the result of that is he can get 2. This one's carved away over the offside. Not particularly well timed. Dockwell keeps it down to a single.
Yeah, decent over overall at this stage of the innings for Mark Adair. 9 runs from 136 for 2. 4 overs to go. We'll certainly be looking at a score in and around 180 from here, you'd have to think.
Oh, at least at the very minimum, I think, from an Afghanistan point of view. 8 wickets in hand, 4 overs left. 10 and over gets them towards that 180 mark, but I think they'll definitely be looking for more than that. This is a very interesting call here from skipper Andrew Milburn. He is going to bring on his leg spinner to bowl the 17th. Ireland don't bowl as many overs of spin in the death as they have done in previous years. Simi Singh fulfilled that role a lot of the time. He's not in the squad these days. It's a big challenge here for Delaney, especially as it's not the biggest leg side boundary in the world. He will be spinning the ball away from that, of course, to the right-hander.
Again, for Ireland, this is a key opportunity, though, to test out what you have, test the credentials of somebody like Gareth Delaney.
But it's interesting that he's bowling more and more of these overs as confidence in him grows, clearly. I think towards the beginning of the summer he was bowling exclusively in the middle overs. I think yesterday he did bowl 1 over towards the end as well. So it's a progression that's going on from him. As we see, he did bowl both the 16th and the 18th yesterday. We can quibble about whether the 16th over is death overs or not, but I think the point still stands. His confidence in him from his skipper to bowl these crucial overs is growing. Well, it's a good delivery. It looked like a wrong one. It was, yeah. You can see Najibullah Zadran just signalling to his partner that did just come out the front of the hand. He didn't pick it.
Well, he's a very useful tool if he's going to bowl as well as this, and that was one of his poorer deliveries, just dragged into the ground, and Najibullah Zadran just muscles it over extra cover, and Harry Tector has to come round to wide long off. Easy 2. It's just going to be short of George Dockrell. They're at deep cover for 1. It was in the air for quite a while on that occasion.
Well, he swung so hard he's lost his bat. There's Zadran. But yeah, that was an interesting one, wasn't it? Off the bat it looked like it was going straight down George Dockrell's throat on the offside sweeper. It just ended up dying on him.
It's good bowling from Gareth Delaney, though. Just talking about whether he can do it, showing himself up to very good capabilities here. At a tricky stage, Afghanistan looking to really press home, entering this last 4 overs, and they've only managed to muster up 5 from the first 5 deliveries. Key delivery, this. He goes short. It was a quicker delivery, and after such a good over from Gareth Delaney, I just wonder whether that really was the option. Just clearly trying to just dart one in to get rid of that ball. And Najibullah Zadran thank you very much, and heaves this one into the trees.
Yes, I think what's done for Delaney there is you can see Najibullah has just moved his feet ever so slightly. As Delaney's gone into his gather, and I think perhaps he thought he was going to walk down the track at him, and he thought he'd go fast into the pitch. So maybe a double bluff, or maybe he was just moving across to the offside to access the leg side. But he picked up the length brilliantly and very quickly, and that was the key to that shot.
Will slightly tarnish the figures of Delaney, who bowled really very nicely today in his 4 overs for 33. Josh Little is going to come back on to bowl over 18, and Not only could they do with a tight over, but they probably could do with a wicket here as well. Try and get in a new batter at this stage of the innings. You might get a dot ball or two as a result.
I think the other thing we can say about that over is, we spoke about Delaney bowling at the death yesterday. I think it was a completely different situation, wasn't it? Afghanistan didn't have anywhere near as many wickets in hand when he bowled at the death yesterday, and it's a completely different challenge bowling to the tail enders. I think it was Rashid and Naveen ul Haq who were facing him, if I remember correctly, and that's obviously a completely different prospect and a much better matchup for Ireland to have your leg spinner bowling to him then than it was perhaps at this stage of the game bowling to two set batters who've got 8 wickets left in the shed.
Good start from Little. Ibrahim Zadran only able to muscle that one to mid-off for 1. It's been a much better compiled innings though from Afghanistan. No wickets in that power play, and despite them being relatively circumspect to start, just the 41 runs from the power play just goes to show you the gears you can go through as a result.
Well, it's probably something that they haven't necessarily reacted to so far in this series, is that you can actually catch up reasonably quickly, and that's always the case here at Stormont. We saw it in some of the New Zealand games here. Someone like Glenn Phillips played a very slow innings for him to start off in one of the games and ended up accelerating rapidly at the death and putting his side into a winning score. That tends to be the way to go about things here, batting first on Stormont rather than going all guns blazing from ball 1. And it probably just has taken the Afghans 3 games to get into that mindset. Don't get me wrong, by all means, in a ground like Malahide, perhaps much flatter, much shorter boundaries, you probably can go for that all-out aggression from ball 1.
Pummeled down the ground by Ibrahim Zadran. A super shot from him, just standing and delivering. Over mid-off, 1 bounce, and into the advertising hoardings.
Just gets his line wrong here, does Josh Little. I mean, you can see why he's trying to bowl the length that he is. A heavy length with trying to get him to pull out to the larger square leg boundary, but it's too wide. It's easy for a player at this stage of the game who's set just to sit deep in his crease and flay that line away over mid-off.
It's going to be more runs. It's going to be 4 more. This one wasn't where Zadran would have wanted. But that being said, it was short, it was quick from Josh Little, and he's got enough bat on it, and it's ran away for 4.
Well, if the previous delivery was Little getting his line wrong, he's actually got this pretty much spot on the money. The field is set for that type of delivery, and he's beating him for pace, and he has his right leg back on the short ball. He's just managed to get it too fine. That's just one of those, you go back to your mark and you say, not a lot I could have done about that.
This time round, just feathers a little. One behind Zadran was looking for that paddle over the short fine leg fielder and has done nothing more than just paddling it straight into the hands of Lorcan Tucker, and Ibrahim Zadran goes for 36.
Well, perhaps Josh Little has gotten away with one there. He swapped the field around, fine leg up, mid-off, back for that maybe slightly footer length or wider line, and he's pretty much bowled another shorter delivery which he's tried to ramp, and he's ended up just running it. I'm not sure if it was off the face or it's off the glove. Just too quick for him. Flicks the glove and it's a simple chance for Lorcan Tucker, but I'd say risky delivery that with fine leg inside the circle.
Certainly, but at the end of the day, it is a wicket for Little, and a needed one as well. Brings the captain, Mohammed Nabi, to the crease. Can be so dangerous in these instances. Can Nabi? Hasn't shone thus far in this series with the bat, but a perfect chance for him. 13 deliveries left. His side are in a good position. All they need is a good finish. Stuff the face for one. It's going to complete the 18th over, and Josh Little's spell. 18 gone, Afghanistan 158 for 3.
Yeah, decent spell from Josh Little today. Not the economic figures we saw yesterday, but I think 2 for 29 at 4 overs. And given the situation of the game, and it probably is a bit of a better pitch as well than Thursday's game, you would take that. The vital component for Little is always that wickets column. When he's in rhythm and he's in his groove, he's rushing batsmen, he's bowling into the pitch, he's challenging a short ball play, and he did remember bounce out Ramanullah Gurbaz earlier on today.
Graham Hume is going to come to bowl the 19th over here, so 2 overs in the power play for Hume and to bowl the 19th, so he's really replicating what we've seen quite a lot from Barry McCarthy, I suppose, and an opportunity for him to potentially show off his ability at the death, and that's a very good way to start.
Yeah, just nails as well, wide Yorker, rather. It's an interesting field. He's on his deep point, but rather than someone else out there for the wide Yorker, as we've seen on many occasions this series, Ireland have actually got a deep extra cover. So they obviously think Nabby's going to try and flay this one pretty straight through the offside, and then apart from that, it's quite regulation. Deep mid wicket, long on, long off.
Gets it past that point in the ring, but they can't prevent 2 as Mohamed Nabi squeezes it out. At this stage of the innings, Ireland will certainly take that.
Interesting. Naby's practicing just a little reverse paddle, I think I'd call it. I wonder if he's thinking, if you're going to fire it outside off, maybe that's a shot he'll pull out. We'll see.
Again, they were searching for 2, but good work from Balbirnie means that they keep it to 1.
Well, I tell you what, I think if Naby had just turned and went there, I think he probably had a decent chance of getting home. There's just a bit of hesitation cost him there. Andrew Balbirnie was always running away. His momentum was taking him away from where he needed to throw it.
Slightly feel Najibullah Zadran more fancied the strike a little bit. I'm not sure he was majorly desperate to get back for 2 there, and perhaps given that he's the man 16 off 10, it's well within his rights to think that he might be the man in a better position to tee off and maybe give the late impetus to this Afghanistan innings. But instead he swung and missed, and despite a long hard stare at Mark Hawthorne, stop ball.
He's not happy with that at all. He's Najibullah Zadran. Neither's Mohamed Nabi. He's giving his 2 cents as well. Hand on hip, he's not happy at all, I have to say. Difficult to see from our angle. But Graham Hume is persisting with his wide Yorkers, and the field is set for it here.
That's length, and that's an enormous stake from Najibullah Zadran. That's one of the biggest we've seen all week. Unfortunately, he missed his length, Graham Hume. It was in the slot, and my lord, that's gone a long way.
Go fetch. Well, somebody remarkably has found the ball, considering the record that those Stormont Bushes have of devouring balls. They managed to find that very quickly. I wonder if it's the same ball that went in there. There's more than a few in there. But anyway, like you said, Graham Hume missed his length and probably was going a little bit straighter than he wanted to as well.
Good execution this time, but even better batting from Najibullah Zadran. That's right beside us in the commentary box. It's almost burst into the production tent. What a fantastic shot from Zadran, and completely within his rights, as I say, to turn down that second from Mohamed Nabi a couple of deliveries ago, and he's plundered 2 big sixes.
Well, he's nearly cost us a brand new camera, so he has. That was a matter of inches from hitting the camera to our left there. You know, this time, we said before, Graham Hume probably got his line wrong with going too straight. Well, he got it right this time outside off, but once again, missed his length. And Zadran is in too good nick to miss out on that length delivery.
Runs flowing for Afghanistan here. 173 for 3 with just an over remaining. In theory, we've seen a lot of the time here in Stormont before. These types of scores don't get chased. So Ireland are going to have to go some here in the second innings. Need a good final over from Mark Adair. Can he stand up to the test? It's a low full toss. It's a fantastic shot from Mohamed Nabi with an even better piece of work from Harry Tector. They're going to come back for 3 and Mohamed Nabi's going to be caught short. So really good work from Camphor, who then palmed the ball to Harry Tector and he'll be given the run out there, and Mohamed Nabi's caught short of his ground going back for the third.
Oh, well, I think that third was just a free hit for Nabi in terms of getting down the other end, because there was always priority to get Zadran back on strike, considering the way he's hitting the ball at the minute. So to get 2 and get him back on strike, yes, you've lost your wicket, but it's still a pretty good result for Afghanistan.
Yeah, I think as long as that ball hadn't gone to the boundary, I think the hope would have been...
They were always going 3 there.
Yeah, the hope would have been to try an odd number, certainly, because that's what they needed. Zadran's just hit his last 2 balls for 6, so probably sensible cricket for Afghanistan. Pretty selfless cricket from Mohamed Nabi as well, which is good to see, knowing the situation. He's a man that's seen plenty of situations in his career.
Interesting to see the plan here. I wonder if that last stroke over extra cover from Zadran has prompted Ireland to put a deep extra cover out, which means he managed to squeeze out one of those wide Yorkers. He's in business, but Adair didn't go for his wide Yorker. The field was set for it. He surprised Zadran. He's gone pace off. It's a good bit of bowling.
Yeah, very good piece of bowling from Mark Adair. Completely foxing Zadran with that slower delivery. A double bluff there, really.
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, the field is still set for that delivery. He's got plenty of fielders out in front to square on the leg side. He's given himself 2 options here, either going wide and full or pace off. That was neither. That was straight in the slot, and it's deposited over long on. Zadran's in the groove here for Afghanistan.
Another tremendous shot from Najibullah Zadran. That ball's almost ended up on the moon. It's gone that high in the air. He's just got this ability to hit the ball such a long way, both distance-wise and in the air. And nothing Gareth Delaney nor George Dockrell could do at long on or deep mid-wicket respectively. Ireland have to be careful here with these last 3 deliveries with Zadran in this type of form. He hasn't got any of that, and he's got actually such a little amount of it that it's short of George Dockrell, and they managed to just get back for 2.
Oh, he's missed out there, has Zadran. He's shuffled across his crease again, trying to access the leg side. He's actually gotten a low full toss. Like you said, Andrew, no timing at all, and I think it actually caught George Dockrell a little bit by surprise, because he was almost going back on the boundary, expecting one to go over his head.
Another big hit from Najibullah Zadran. Has he got the distance? You bet he has. He's got it over Gareth Delaney there at long arm. Zadran moves to 42 from just 17 deliveries. And this is hurting Ireland at the business end.
Yeah, pace off again from Adair, but he probably just needs to drag the length back if he's going to go to his pace off options. It's still in the slot. It's still there for Zadran to free his arms in his half, and yes, he hasn't got all of it. He's only just about crept over the rope, but that's just what happens in T20 cricket.
Yeah, you can feel a little bit hard done by there, Mark Adair, when you've half outfoxed Zadran, really, and he's mistimed it. Still gone for 6, just over that long arm boundary. The Afghanistan supporters in full voice right beside the scoreboard, and Zadran's flicked that one away. Could have picked out Fionn Hand, and has, who takes a catch to finish off his day in the field on his first T20 international. Mark Adair gets a wicket. It won't mean too much to him, but At least it's a dot ball to finish off, and Afghanistan finish 189 for 5 from their 20 overs, and we'll be going through the cards and a little bit of discussion after a quick break.